Well, it depends whether we are talking in the context of Zimbabwe as a nation to say, is this dire? If you ask me, yes, because we are not used to these levels of crime. But if you compare with other neighboring countries, it's way more than what we're experiencing in this country. But having said that, we still have a lot to do to try and contain. As I mentioned earlier, when we set ourselves a target, we had to stop the rate of increase, which was alarming at some point, to manageable levels before we then started reducing it, in the direction that we would prefer. And we've done that extremely well. The police, I would like to commend them. They've done extremely well in that regard. But it's still a challenge. We still need to, as I mentioned in the presentation, that the biggest problem that we have is people moving around with cash. People now, they boast about having 500,000 in their cars, 100,000 in their cars. But by so doing, they are attracting crime. They are attracting robbers. Robbers will be tempted to go and help themselves with that kind of cash. So, and that is a challenge to us as police. We are doing our utmost to try and do it. And in fact, I want to commend the police. Like I said, normally, in fact, if we look at what their performance, they've been accounting for these people. Maybe not at the rate that we would prefer, but at the end of the day, they've been accounting, they've been arresting the people, including those who are committing murder as well. Again, like I mentioned in that presentation, there are so many causes and reasons for the increase in murder cases, which we are trying by all means to contain. Some of them are social, some of them are drug abuse related. People, when they are intoxicated, they can do anything. So those are some of the negative effects of drugs. This is why His Excellency the President set up the Interministerial Committee, which has done tremendous work so far, to say the very least. And that committee includes, critical ministries. On the one hand, the law enforcement, agents who are doing their best to reduce the supply of drugs by arresting and busting the syndicates. And on the other hand, we also have other ministries who are trying to reduce. These are all ministries within this interministerial task force who are trying to reduce the demand by providing alternatives or options rather for the youth and those who are potential victims of drug and substance abuse. We have seen the National Youth, the Ministry of Youth doing, implementing the Zimbabwe National Youth Service Program. We've seen the Ministry of SMEs, women, they are also doing their utmost. We've seen the Ministry of Information, yourselves included, disseminating valuable information, awareness campaigns to try and dissuade people from the use of drugs. Because it is these are some of the negative consequences of the use of drugs, which we now see, emanating, culminating into crime. So, but again, like I said, like I mentioned in the presentation, we're also doing a lot in terms of deploying technologies to try and combat, try and deal and arrest the increase of in crime. And as I mentioned, there are a number of systems that are being deployed across the ministry. Yes.